So let me just give a little background on the whole thing for anyone who has been living under a rock lately. Um, so it all started. It all started with the "Don't Say Gay" bill because the Disney has been funding politicians that back the "Don't Say Gay" bill, like Dennis Baxley and stuff like that. But then decided to, in addition to funding it, they would also publicly criticize it and say that we are going to make more "quote unquote" inspiring content. Uh, so that means like queer coded characters, a few explicitly queer characters like Artie from Cruella or Oaken from Frozen, if you remember the guy in the sauna, or LeFou in the live action version of Beauty and the Beast. But it's usually like not a major character, or it's like inside, or it's very queer coded, or it's censored when it's done in China. But basically, the right wing went crazy and they were like, Disney's being woke and they are encouraging the grooming of children through exposing them to LGBT characters, and and people are like going and protesting in front of Disneyland and stuff like that. And it came to a head when Governor DeSantis decided to take away Disney's special tax status. Those who don't know, Disney World since 1967 has essentially been its own private government. It's called the Reedy Creek Improvement District. It's a company town, exactly. It's the size. It contains 2 municipalities, and it's the size of San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
It gives the company has pretty much total autonomy. They have control over police.
They even collect taxes.
They do. Taxes. They have police officers. They have fire units. They control sewage, roads, building permits. They can issue themselves liquor licenses.
And yet they don't serve alcohol, except that they don't serve alcohol really, except at very specific places.
Frankly, I think an alcohol-based Disney World would be amazing. I would watch.
Oh, fuck yeah!
I would hang out there constantly. But the crazy thing about this district is that only landowners can vote on any governance. So it's pretty much.
Holy shit! Did we abolish that?
No, because it's a special tax status. It's crazy. It's
very special.
Allowed?
And so literally it's like Disney and like a few other people who happen to own land in that area govern the entire thing. And that's how they can make totally autonomous decisions. And so Governor DeSantis said, well, if you're gonna be groomers or and woke, then we're gonna take away your special tax status. But it is super unclear what that means. Because basically that means now that they have to redistribute 2 municipalities worth of infrastructure into like new governments. And it's like totally unclear because there's like a whole thing with debt and like tax collection, and it's just totally unclear what that actually means. So that's a little bit of background on the whole thing. Now, hot takes.
I do think it's absolutely hilarious. This was my first observation about this, is that the right has gotten so upset about there being gay people in the world that they're going against their core belief of supporting company towns.
Yeah.
It's a really weird place to be in as someone who's really wanted to get rid of this company town, seeing it actually be under threat for a reason that actually might put me and a lot of other people in way more danger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what a weird spot to be in.
Honestly.
Like, it's because it's perpetuating the bullshit fucking narrative that queer people, specifically trans people, are groomers, and that type of rhetoric gets us murdered.
It's straight up, it's genocidal rhetoric. It's stuff that the Nazis used, talking about like the Weimar era gay and trans communities, calling them like corrupters of children. It's genocidal rhetoric. It's what you say when you plan on killing a lot of people.
It is.
I don't mean to keep just like shamelessly plugging C4SF articles, but I feel like that's also kind of my role here. And we just posted one by Thomas Webb on this Don't Say Gay bill, and specifically they lay out like how exactly it harms children, and probably is going to lead to a lot more abuse getting covered up and being perpetuated, and
Oh yeah.
nothing good, nothing good.
There's oh gosh, a new movement that I came across. It was like Stop CPS or something, which when I first saw it, I was like, this sounds like kind of like a weird right wing thing. But what it is that it's a bunch of parents of particularly people of color with trans kids, with gay kids,
Yes.
who are having their children like taken away from them and having kids
Yeah.
like, kidnapped by the government.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, holy, it's like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, that
Yeah,
was, I mean, wasn't that explicitly laid out in one of the bills they were trying to pass in Texas? Like, we will take
That
your
was-
children
yeah.
away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Abbott was basically saying, like, hey, it's now child abuse to have a child that we don't particularly approve of for reasons that are bullshit, but
No,
we'll
you
say
can
them
have
anyway.
that child. It's just illegal to treat them with respect or
Yeah.
dignity, or
Wasn't
or
it
get them
something?
help.
I remember. Well, I gotta Google. Well, I'm pretty. There was like some ridiculous, absolute like punishment for that they were trying to put for giving your child gender affirming care.
It was like being charged with child abuse. I think. With
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I remember this. It was in Texas, I think.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it was something that it was supposed to be like it was some absolutely ridiculous that was like more than sexual abuse. Like it was I need to find the article.
Yeah, can we get a fuck Greg Abbott in chat
Mhm.
from everyone? That would be nice. Just get that on record.
It's
So much
just
for the
like
tax status.
it's just total like it's just all so mask off. Like it's the conservatives are just totally done away with the pretense of small government. It's not even like the rhetoric isn't even there anymore. I haven't seen about small government.
Yeah, it's cis government.
Yeah, it's totally masked off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Texas is just going wild with everything now. Like I was just reading it was I think about a month ago maybe where Texas a woman had a miscarriage that may or may not have been self-induced. Went to the hospital because something went wrong,
Oh, I heard about that.
and they arrested her, even though there's no law that says anything of the sort. And actually indicted her. Like they got a grand jury together and actually put out a fucking indictment. They ended up dropping the charges but they put her in jail, indicted her and everything. With for something that was not, there was no statute. No law. Just
Well, it's so crazy because there's like a million ways to have an abortion. There's natural abortives, there are abortion pills, there's like too much stress, there's falling down, like
Oh yeah.
it happens all the time and has been happening all the time for the last like million years, and then we pretend that it's like abortion is this one very particular process that happens at Planned Parenthood, and it's ridiculous, and it's only going to lead to more stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like it's to the point where you have people getting denied for where a majority of people who say they're pro-life in this country claim to, or at least anti-abortion, claim to fucking be in favor of it, or exceptions in the case of like mother child, or mother's health usually, like and certain things, and yet we still have doctors afraid in some areas to provide medically necessary abortions in those circumstances because of these laws being too broad sweeping, and because of them not trusting people to not just report them on some bullshit.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, okay, at that point, you're not even making the medically necessary exceptions like actually like viably available. So even if your goal is more pro-life in that sense, that's not a very pro-life strategy.
Mhm.
Like you have some major unintended consequences that come from that are amplified by just the scope of the power of the institution implementing these solutions, which in this case being the state. And as anarchists, we all understand that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just
Hayek. It's Hayek. You know,
yeah.
it's James Scott. It's all about the state. Just doesn't know. You can't use the state. State is like opening a cashew with a hammer.
So it's just that it really doesn't
Wait,
even.
you open cashews? Hold on.
No, you buy them shelled like a fucking, like a civilized person or
I
something.
don't think I've ever
right?
shelled a cashew before.
Mm.
You gotta ask
Apologies, I'm from
yourself
California.
who shells my cashews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who
It's a
shells
big
my cashew?
question.
But circling back, I did the googling, and it's Idaho.
Oh,
Mm.
Idaho, not Texas. Idaho
Potato
also
land.
sucks.
not I.
They passed a bill in their House. I don't believe the Senate has voted on it yet, though. It was passed to make it a felony punishable by life in prison to provide gender affirming care.
Oh.
If
Not
you have.
not only that, but to take if you're living in Idaho and you go somewhere else for gendering affirming care, also
Yeah.
felony.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
So you can't even go somewhere else.
Find another excuse to go somewhere and then to actually move your kid somewhere. Yeah, no, if you have a kid period and you're living in a state that passes something like that, if you have the resources or can reach out to obtain those resources, get your kid the fuck out. It doesn't matter whether you think they're trans or not. You don't know. Simple as that. Like I know that's a big ask, but I mean, we ask a lot from parents in general. It's a fucking hard job.
Yeah.
But like, if you have the means, please get the fuck out of those areas. If you do not have the means, try and reach out if anything like that passes in your area.
Also move out of any state that passes. Well, they pretty much go hand in hand. Any of the anti-abortion laws. If you got kids, what if your kid has a miscarriage and they think it's a home abortion?
While you're bringing the graphic up, one thing that I'm really hoping we see around both these anti-abortion laws and the anti-trans laws is liberals getting a lot more comfortable with doing illegal shit because they're going to have to start doing a lot more illegal shit.
Well, we started seeing at least some of them willing to get involved with anti-fascist activism and Black Lives Matter stuff, and just defunding, and some of them even talking about defunding the police, which I mean is not abolishing, but it's a step. And that, we had a lot of wayward liberals who really came and went, but we also had a lot more than I expected come out when it was needed to at least provide numbers. And I think that it doesn't necessarily translate, but I mean we can hope that at least enough of especially with, we may have seen a lot of wayward folks who just came out and aren't necessarily willing to do a bunch of illegal shit per se, but we also saw a ton of people who were willing to do whatever it took and who got radicalized through that. And I think that we will still see yet more people be willing to be radicalized and be willing to do whatever they deem morally right, and that in that sense, regardless of the law in terms of civil disobedience. Like, I think
Yeah, and
that
that's
makes sense.
I think it's a great path to radicalization because I've seen some conversations already that are promising of people saying, "Oh, we got to start, getting involved with these networks for, transporting someone out of a state or bringing drugs into a state." And then realizing that that's illegal and going, "Oh, I'm going to have to break the law to do this." I think that's a good thing for everyone to,
Every
deal with.
cis
Think
person who
about.
has trans friends, check in and just ask straight up. Like, I don't think any of your trans friends will be upset by you just asking them, "Hey, do you or anyone need help getting a hold of any hormones or anything for any reasons?" Because a lot of cis people can get prescribed those same hormones, and if you get the right fucking doctor, you can straight up tell them in confidentiality what you are getting that for and how to kind of help. And then it's just a matter of finding a doctor that'll help the person who is taking hormones to get blood tests, which you can find other excuses for that as well. But yeah, I mean, that's really one of those things where you can, I don't know, like you can definitely find you can definitely do your research and find different conditions that are treated with various hormones and try and get around that. I mean, honestly, it's one of those things where some of my hormones are also utilized as heart meds. And I am on several other heart meds. So there are many times where I go to the pharmacy to pick up my heart meds and my hormones, and they literally think that some of my hormones are heart meds. And they've definitely made that clear at several points that that's something that they just assume sometimes. And it's very interesting to, yeah. I mean, even I could probably lie and get hormones for myself if need be, just based on that. So doctors aren't lawyers in that way either, as long as you ain't trying to score drugs off of them, like to abuse. They usually aren't going to be assholes unless they're bigots.
Speaking of bigots,
Disney is this giant, like, and we just talked about how it's like basically a private government. It's Disney is not like there's no person in charge. It's just like a giant robot that eats property and like exists only to eat property. That's why it's extended intellectual property laws in the United States. I'm not one to totally dismiss like culture war. I know like culture is important, symbols are important and stuff like that, but I am a materialist. And so when people start saying, well, Disney is leftist and woke versus like no, Disney is like kind of conservative and stuff, it's misses the point that Disney only cares about its profitability and its like property ownership. And so like we have these conversations about like what is Disney doing on a cultural level, on like an ideal level, but then basically Disney is just trying to maintain its profitability, and now it's really confused about how to do that because on a whole, the United States, like the populace being as it is naturally like becoming younger because more people are born, is becoming more progressive.
I didn't know they owned History Channel.
Yo, right?
What the fuck?
ESPN, I mean, Marvel, random bunches of land all over the world. So like any conversation we have about Disney needs, in my mind, needs to be prefaced with this thing of like what Disney is.
Right.
That is like this giant, insane thing.
And
like owns more money and more land and more property than any human could possibly consume in a billion years.
hear me out. Way that I think we can actually fuck with DeSantis. We have all the queers come out in favor of him stripping Disney of their special tax status.
Mhm.
But not for the reasons he's doing it. But we really start a campaign that says like gays say, like something, or something like, yeah, we should definitely like start a campaign where we like pretend that we're supporting DeSantis in this.
It's like if you consume any media, there's like a solid chance that it is either owned by, been owned by, or will be owned by Disney.
Hello, this is David Lieberhart.
And Jason the Kitty Cat.
Please join Crew Day Maine and the Center for Stateless Society.
For Crew Day Crawl.
A week-long
Anarchist Book Fair.
and Mardi Gras
Festival.
in St. Catamine,
County.
Louisiana. There'll be live podcast,
Music.
stand-up, drag.
So much.
Visit our website, crewdaygras,
.wgf.
for more information.
Thank you.
Have a great Mardi Gras.
You were like, this isn't a very good pro-life strategy, and then you just smash your spaceship into the wall.
Well, that's a personal choice. You know?
Boom. Oh, bounce.
Oh, it's not that.
Oh, there it is. There we go.